With yesterday's results widening the delegate lead for Joe Biden, some in his camp are advocating canceling Sunday's upcoming Democratic debate. Congressman and Biden surrogate Jim Clyburn made that argument on NPR yesterday. He said the DNC should, quote, step in.
A call which received criticism from many, including our next guest, host and founder of TheYoung Turks Cenk Uygur. He's here via Skype to talk about last night's results and those Clyburn comments in particular. Great to see you, Cenk. Thanks for joining us.
Great to see you guys. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. So what did you make of that? They're already trying to protect Joe Biden after this latest thing. I think Clyburn even said, not just cancel the debate, cancel the primary. It is over.
Yeah, he's not alone. They all want to cancel the debate. I wonder why. So, look, let's be realistic. There's really 1 week left. If they have the debate and Joe Biden falls on his face, then Bernie can win Florida, Ohio, Illinois, etc. But Biden has the lowest bar in human history. All he has to do is not collapse in the debate. And people like Clyburn are worried he can't clear that bar, that he will just literally melt down in a debate if it's 2 hours long and it's one-on-one, so Joe Biden has to speak for an hour. And they criticize us for saying that Joe Biden might have some issues, but apparently they think he has much larger issues than even we realize, because they're not sure he could make a 2-hour debate without completely and utterly collapsing. I hope they're wrong, because he's likely to be the nominee now. If that's what they know internally, we're all doomed, because that means Trump's going to easily win re-election. Thank you very much, establishment.
It is so remarkable that since that big South Carolina win and everybody lines up behind him and Obama puts out the phone call and all the, Pete and Amy and everybody drops out and backs him. First of all, there's been no debate. Second of all, he's been in the candidate protection program. He spoke for 7 minutes at a rally and screwed that up. They let him out yesterday. He yells at a voter and curses him out and calls them AR-14s and whatever. Do you think that voters are going to end up having Joe Biden as the nominee and very quickly having some buyer's remorse?
Yeah, I think there's an excellent chance that he even gets replaced by the convention, because the establishment knows what kind of shape he's in more than we do. That's why his staffers hide him. They even said it to the press. They said, we don't let him do afternoon events. Jesus, that's how incompetent our candidate's going to be, that his own staff's like, well, you don't want to let him out in the afternoon. And they're asking that he be seated instead of standing in the debate. They only let him speak for 7 minutes at a time. And he goes around not only fumbling answers, not completing sentences, but randomly yelling at every voter and telling them not to vote for him. There's an iceberg straight ahead, and everyone who points out the iceberg is then yelled at by the mainstream media, who says, no, get in line, comply, it must be Biden. I'll tell you, the number one culprit is the mainstream media. They absolutely rigged this election in favor of the establishment. And then if they lose, they'll do the same thing they did last time. Oh, it wasn't our fault. It was those dastardly progressives. If they hadn't pointed out that Joe Biden is a disaster, we could have tricked everybody into believing that he wasn't a disaster. It won't be us. It'll be the Republicans for 8 straight months bashing him and easily winning that case. But they'll say, no, Cenk and Crystal said it 8 months ago a couple of times, so it must be their fault. We just got to make sure that we never allow progressives on air.
Well,
whatever.
Let me ask you
They're
something.
losers. They're idiots. What can I do? I tried my best. If they lose with Biden, let's just be clear. From the get-go, it is 100% the fault of Democratic leadership and mainstream media.
I couldn't agree with you more, Jake.
I heard it was the all-powerful Susan Sarandon's fault,
right.
personally.
I do want to ask, if Bernie made the case that either of you ever made, would he not be in the position that he is in? Did he do a disservice by not calling him corrupt or calling him out? He always says he's a good man. He says he could beat Donald Trump. He was kind of weak whenever it came to attacking Joe Biden. He never said any of the things that you do or Crystal does.
Yeah. So, look, that's a really, really tough question. I don't think it's easy at all. It's easy for me to say, yeah, Bernie should have done what I would do. But that's not necessarily the right answer, because look, he's damned if he does, damned if he doesn't. So if he had attacked Biden in the way that I think he should, because it's factual, not because it's personal, the media would have savaged him even more. They would have said monster, rude, destroying the Democratic Party. Now, at the same time, Biden can call Bernie any name in the book, radical, socialist, compare him to Castro. All the establishment and everyone in media can smear Bernie 8,000 ways to Sunday. But that's just the rules of the game. The mainstream media is the most biased, corrupt institution in America. They will always cheat on behalf of the establishment. So now if Bernie was more aggressive, they would have heaped twice as much hatred on top of him. And so on the other hand, they hated him anyway. So he might as well, at least when he had the mic, make his case. Joe Biden did the bankruptcy bill. He was known as a senator from MBNA, representing the credit card companies and not his voters. He pushed Reagan to do the war on drugs. He wanted to execute everyone except jaywalkers. He literally said that. He wanted to cut Social Security. All these things, 1,000 things. His record on civil rights is abysmal. He lied about it over and over again. Now, Bernie surrogates said some of these things, but the media just shut them out. They're like, shut up. You're not allowed to talk. And so the only person who had a chance to say it was Bernie. And he was too polite in 2016, and he was too polite in 2020. And we lost. It's easy to say in hindsight he shouldn't have been. He's in a tough situation, but at the same time, we know the result now. So with the benefit of hindsight, yes, he should have been more aggressive against him.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and it's also just part of who he is, and we have to acknowledge part of what people like about him is that he doesn't do some of those things. But I think taking those lessons going forward, what I have learned is that Trump realized it was better to get attacked by the media than be ignored by the media. And for a lot of the campaign, the media basically ignored Bernie Sanders. They pretended like he just wasn't running at all, right? So I think in hindsight, look, hindsight is 2020, and who really knows, right, how this all would have shaken out if he had done things differently. But it would have been better to risk the wrath of the media and have them say, how dare you call Joe Biden, on cognitive decline, or how dare you call him corrupt? Because then people go, oh, Joe Biden corrupt? Like, let me think about that. Let me look at that. Even as they're saying, Bernie, you're being too mean, which, as you rightly point out, they said anyway. Cenk, I wanted to get your thoughts on, though, this massive generational divide within the Democratic Party. And we can throw the numbers up. This is from Michigan. I mean, as much as Joe Biden dominates with older voters, Bernie Sanders dominates even more with young voters. It's really astonishing. I mean, 82% of voters under the age of 30 went for Bernie Sanders and said, yes, we believe in a Green New Deal. We believe in Medicare for all. This is our guy. Do you think that they're going to turn up for Joe Biden? I mean, Joe is out saying he'd veto Medicare for all. The establishment has, made fun of the Green New Deal. Do you think that energy and enthusiasm is going to be there for a guy who's basically said, I have no use for the ideas that you support and are excited about?
So you're right to point out this phenomena. We actually used Missouri's numbers last night on the Young Turks to make the same point. And it was very stark. For voters under 45, about 70% of them support Bernie Sanders. For voters above 45, 70% of them support Joe Biden. So that leads to a couple of conclusions. One, we have the largest cultural divide in American history, and it's between old people and young people. It's because old people still watch the crap that's on television, and they get spoon-fed propaganda every single day. Young people, now going all the way up to the age of 45, actually Google things. They can search something, they can find out about policy, and they don't need Joe Scarborough to tell them what to think. So young people are right, old people are wrong. It's just a fact. It's true. And if they want to get offended by it, just not obviously 70-30, 30% of the people above 45, including me, are wonderful people. They're correct. They do great things. But in general, what I'm saying is factual, and they can cry about it all day long, but that's just true. So now a second ramification of that is, well, we're kind of screwed because we're so divided. If it had been Bernie, yes, younger voters would have showed up more. But let's be honest, the older voters would have gotten cranky. I didn't want change. Joe Scarborough told me the establishment's great. I didn't want anything. And so, and the reality is, right, older voters vote more. So now I'm going to say something shocking, maybe, to folks, but my job is to tell the truth. Maybe they were right to pick Biden Because older voters vote more. So, if they don't want any change and they vote more, they're going to win. So they're going to win in the Democratic primary. And in the general election, maybe you need those old people to get cranky and get out there and go, no change. I love Joe Biden. Maybe that'll win the election. So God bless them.
There's also a class dynamic at play, too, because older generations benefited so much more from the structure of the economy. Right. And the young people who are voting for Bernie Sanders have just gotten screwed, whether it was the Iraq War or the financial collapse, the lack of ability to start a family or own a home or any of those things. So I think that's an important dynamic here as well. Cenk, it's always so great to have your insights. Thank you so much.
Good to see you.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Coming up on Rising, founder of American Compass, Orrin Cass, responds to recent criticism from the Wall Street Journal.